Welcome to Make a Difference with Phil Martelli. He is Phil Martelli. I am Jared Phillips. We have, I would say, quite a few guests with us today. Not only do we have our usual guests for the podcast, but it's quite a busy setup here in the Martelli household. Fully decked out for Christmas. We've got a beautiful nativity scene just off screen to our right here, and we're definitely getting ready for that holiday season. But with that, of course, gets kind of hectic, especially in the college and the high school environment. As you want to get ready for the holidays, there's kind of still a lot going on school wise that you got
Yeah,
to get used to.
it's really interesting because in even talking with some family members who are in Richmond, and the grade school is taking finals. So we have finals in grade school, finals in high school down there, and then college. You have these finals. That's why the games kind of slow down a little bit. You don't see as many games. You don't see as much travel from college teams. And I kept thinking about it, and I guess it's a cliche to say to somebody like cramming for exams means that you forgot to do work the first 14 or 15 weeks of a semester. But then there was another part to me that said, there is no teacher, there's no professor that's trying to get you on a final exam. What they're trying to ascertain is what knowledge have you picked up, and how can you bring it back, whether it's a project, whether it's a TED talk, or whatever opportunities you are offered. And I thought further about that professor, that teacher is looking, they want to be taught. So I think that every day that we can be a student and every day that we can be a teacher, that's not a good day, that's a great day. And yes, you say, well, is it just material? Is it just informational that we're trying to teach? And I think no, I think that in today's world, like technology, how about just if I just pay attention to how we get hooked up here, I gain a little bit of knowledge. I think that from young people, they are much more malleable in terms of understanding others. Right? There's a certain generation that would say, no, the drop the bottom line, right? It's you're on one side or the other. And it's a detriment right now to the political environment in this country. One side or the other. No, no coming together. Young people are much more uh, agreeable, if that's the right word, with others' differences. I don't think that that's always been the case. I think that adults can pick up and speak to our young people about, put that machine down. Let's have a conversation. So all of these opportunities to teach and to learn. And so I send this out, and it's not a gift, it's just a thought. When you go to put your head on the pillow at night, ask yourself, whom have I taught today? And what did I learn? And then the beauty of this student teacher idea is you get it again tomorrow and the next day and the next day. So, yeah, it's finals and there's pressure. But if you take it down to the daily thought, what did I learn? Whom did I teach? So good luck to everybody out there, and don't stress.
I think there's a lot to learn, a lot to teach around this holiday season. And I'll tell you one way you can really find those daily nuggets, the Martelli Minute.
And again, Status Solutions, we salute you. We made a connection over the weekend where a college teammate of mine is connected with the New Jersey State Police, and they're going to be reaching out to Status Solutions to see if they can make some connections. So that's a good thing. Safety technology for our school kids so that they can be an environment where they can teach and they can learn. That's what we're looking for. Martelli Minute every morning, 6:30. Phil_Martelli on Instagram. And it's just a thought to get your day started. And I'm going to start with this one. At this time of the year, Presence is greater than presence. Presence is greater than presence. Challenge yourself today so tomorrow you can celebrate your accomplishments. If not challenged today, there is no celebration in the future. Worry less about what is coming by focusing more on what is. Live in the moment. Surround yourself with good people, and that will come back in our guest segment. We have been surrounded by good people in our guest segment. And today, at this time of the year, they're really important, good people. Challenge yourself not to work harder, but to work smarter. To-do lists are valuable, but a what matters most list is invaluable. The Martelli Minute. And we're going all the way through. If you wake up and Christmas morning, you're looking for a little bit of just a pick me up, we got one for you. Every day, 6:30, Instagram.
At Phil_Martelli.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I'm really excited about growing that and making sure that we continue to give that as a gift. So,
well, today's guest is quite a gift as well.
What people talk to you all the time. People talk all the time. The Christmas spirit, and you think when you're young, well, what did I get for that parent? What did I always about that? And then as you get a little older and you start thinking like the spirit, the feeling, that sense. It's not just one day. It's not just a gift. It's not just something under a tree. And our guest today, we're going to get into how long they've done this, but bringing the Christmas spirit, maybe it begins and ends with Santa's helpers. What they've done is they've extended their hand, and every time you extend your hand, you touch a heart. That's what our guest has done over and over and over. We've been really deliberate on Make a Difference to connect with community servants. This, I will say, is to the highest degree of community service. Impacted over 2,000 families, 6,000 kids. And you already know this. They're heroes. Heroes, ordinary people who do extraordinary things. When you read the website, when you hear this interview, this is a chills. You're going to get chills. So we're welcoming from the Dear Santa Society, Bill Travers. Bill, thank you for being with us.
Well, thank you for that overwhelming introduction. I hope I can, meet your expectations here today.
Well, there's no doubt what you have been doing is going to do that. The beauty here for me is this. You've combined family and service. Can you make that connection for all of our viewers?
Well, it's interesting. Let me start off by saying one thing. My knowledge of you goes way back before you were Coach Martelli, when you were at St. Joe Prep, playing in that outstanding backcourt with Mo Howard. And I do want you to recollect probably one of the greatest Catholic League playoff games, you versus North Catholic. I think the final score was 76-73.
Exactly. That's exactly right.
See, I know I got my history. You and Mo Howard led the Prep to a victory over the Barry Brodzinski led North Catholic Falcons. I was teaching at North at the time and coaching football, so we go way back. And I followed your career. And as you said, let me get to the family part of it. It's interesting. Your son Jimmy and my daughter Katie were very good friends. They kind of ran around with the same people in high school. which was a neat thing, later on in life, as I followed your accomplishments. So the interesting thing about here's what Dear Santa started. It started in 1989. It was started by, it turns out, a couple of students of mine from North Catholic, and the head guy was a guy named Jim Salgecco, and he and a couple of his friends got an idea. You know what? Let's do something for somebody else at Christmas. Now, again, 1989, knowing what the value of the dollar was then, they raised $1,000, and they were able to support 25 children for Christmas that year. And that was the starting point, And last year, to give you a comparison, we worked with 57 families, and we actually do the numbers, 217 children. So I think the credit goes back to the young men that were, products of, North Catholic, the Catholic League, if you would. He was a former football player of mine. And I got involved. He reached out to me like in 1991 and said, you want to help us out. And I got involved, and I've done it. My own children were involved in it. And my daughter, Katie, now, who's Jimmy's, high school friend, she's now on the board with us. And just like about a month ago, we've brought in some, I call them, anybody that's like, below 50 is young to me. So we brought in some young people like in their like mid to late 30s that are going to join our board. So the idea is, you want to continue this and make it go on for the next generations. So that's the background of it. And the idea, and you can stop me, as Melissa Gleason, a mutual friend of ours, said to me this morning that I could talk to a wall. I said, yes, I guess I could, because the wall wouldn't stop me, So stop me when you want. But I think the thing that we did back when it started, everything was letters. You would get letters and letters and letters, and you would go through the letters. You tried to see which ones seemed to make sense. And as we become technologically advanced, we generated into emails, which can be problematic because it's a lot easier for somebody to send an email to 25 organizations. And we always want to be sure we don't want to overdo it, and we don't want to underdo it. So about 5 years or 6 years ago, we decided let's try to extend more to organizations. So we reached out to school districts, particularly home and school visitors who could identify the most needy families. We reached out to churches. We reached out to, people that we knew, like we deal with St. Christopher's Hospital now. Beautiful. We deal with a thing called Cutest Kids. Any organization that we feel does a great job for, and I like to say, people in need. That's the idea.
Right.
So that's the background of it. And, I'll let you guys chime in for whatever and then I got a whole bunch of stuff too.
So Bill, I want to go back to 1991, and everybody out there, and I don't mean this in a negative way. Everybody out there gets an ask, right? You're teaching in high school, you're a community guy, you're coaching. And so somebody always asks, and the first thing that pops into your head is, can I really make a difference? That's thus the name of the podcast. What about this? Why did the Dear Santa Society grab you? Because it grabbed your heart. That's obvious by your answers.
Well, I think, first of all, because these were, young guys, I'll say at the time, these were kids that I knew from the time they were 14 and 15 that started it. And they were good guys, right? So I kept in contact with them a little bit. Mm-hmm. And when they said, hey, would you like to get involved? My initial thing, to be really honest with you, I thought, well, this could be a good thing, not only for me, but my children at that point, were at an age where let's see if I could get them involved. Because I think something you alluded to either, earlier or in a previous one, sometimes I think that our younger kids, they have their own reality, and their own reality is not the reality of the majority of people. So I just used the word grounded to keep my own children grounded. Said, all right, so here's what you're going to do. You're going to come and you're going to help us wrap presents. So that was the initial thing. Then I had them help with the preparing the food. And when they got to be a certain age, my belief was I wanted them to be like 14 or 15. Then you could come on delivery with us and you would get to see the families and you would get to see what they are experiencing, And I thought it was really good. I thought that was a good thing for my own children. But I got to be honest with you, I thought it was great for me. I would say this to anybody if you have an opportunity. I have had a lot of good things happen to me over the course of my lifetime, but nothing gives me more sense of a good feeling as doing this every year. Like we're going to make our deliveries this weekend. We try to do it the Saturday before. We've contacted people, and I'll go tell you through the whole process how our team works. But I am telling you, when the day is done on Saturday, I'm feeling really, really good. And to me, Christmas is just another part of it. But this is the thing that gives me the really good feeling.
Bill, I actually have, this is my next kind of statement that I was going to have you react to it. Is I think oftentimes in life, when we are giving, as long as we are present while we are giving, whatever it's time, talent, it could be treasures, it could be an idea, a concept. When we are giving, if we pay attention, we get more than we ever give.
I
was going to ask you to describe that moment. You just described that moment for you when you realized, hey, wait a second, this isn't about me. I'm getting more than I'm giving.
It's interesting. It was probably one of the first deliveries we ever made. And this was a gut-wrenching thing for me. And it was our last delivery of the day. And it was in an area, it was like high-rise, subsidized housing, right? And we went into a house, and I will never forget it. We walked in. Now, we had identified the family and everything. We walked in. Now, I'd like people to try to visualize this. It's hardwood floors. There's a couch. There's two kids sitting on the couch. There's a refrigerator in the middle of the living room. There's a light bulb hanging from the ceiling in the kitchen, right? And I just looked at the two kids. And as you go through, life, and you work in education and workshops, you start identifying that these kids, I don't want to say they've been previously traumatized, but you could tell they were sitting there, right? It's like 6 o'clock at night. They're in their pajamas or whatever. And I remember when we made the delivery, I left and I was with Jim Salcheco, the guy that started. I said, Jim, that just is unbelievable to me that, that first of all, that people were existing this way and that we could help them out. And I said to him, I go, I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but that was the most gut-wrenching thing. And it was the last delivery of the first year that I ever did it. And from that point on, I was hooked. I said, hey, I want to be part of this.
And now the other part of it is because we did this with our St. Joe's team, Hawks helping others. But I was insistent on two things. We passed a hat, literally, Bill, at our games, passed a hat. Whatever we collected, we then divided into 4 or 5 or 6 families in West Philadelphia. But our players bought the gifts.
I like it.
Wrapped the gifts and delivered the gifts. It was the last thing we did before we went on Christmas break from our team. And I would always say to them, the biggest part of this is going in there. And then I bring up the idea of this, the strength of the families whom you've served to be humble enough and aware enough that they need help at this time, for their kids. It's unbelievable the strength that these families have. And then the gut-wrenching part for me, Bill, would be there's another layer of families, individuals who aren't even able to ask for help. They don't know how, they don't know where to go. What Dear Santa Society has done, you're changing lives. And somebody might say it's temporary. Nah, that lasted. So speak about those families, like the people that you've met.
Well, it's interesting because one of the things that, like we have like our group goes this way. There's a group of people that all they do is shop. That's what they want to do. They have nothing. They don't ever make a delivery. They're what I call the worker bees. They do all the shopping. Then we have various groups. They'll call them wrapping parties. There's even a group over in, I think it's Lenape High School, their National Honor Society every year wraps gifts for, the group over that works the Jersey side of the river. And then we have, so we have the shoppers, then we have the wrappers, and then we have the delivery teams. Now, some of them are duplicates that they do it. And the delivery teams, we started out, we were at St. John's in Manayunk. That was like our staging area. And then we went to the old Mermaid Lake in Bluebell area, right? Right now, our staging area through Father Casey, the pastor at IHM in Andorra, that's where we bring our gifts, we put our food baskets together there. And then we have the delivery teams. And when you go into here's the thing that you see. We say this when I'm asking for donations. I said, I wish we could share the faces of the children.
Yes,
now we do give the parents the option. We tell them, we don't want to come on like, okay, here we are, we're the good guys, and so forth. We tell the parents, if you don't want the children there, that's fine. We'll get the gifts to you and how you put them under the tree or whatever you need. In fact, this year, a family had their house burned. So, we knew that they're in a new house and so forth. And I made the contact and I said, is there anything we could help you with? And it was funny. The mom got back to me and said, look, I know this is kind of like an off the wall request, but could you get us a Christmas tree? Well, the fact that they had a fire, we certainly weren't getting a live Christmas tree, but I said, all right, how about if we provide an artificial tree with lights on it, right? And that is being delivered to their house today,
Oh.
So it's kind of like a little thing like that. That'll make them happy. We've had situations, just so you know, where, think about this, grandparents, because of circumstances, have had to take legal action to get custody of their grandchildren. So we've been involved in some of that. We deal with a church where the minister, who's a former educator, said that, some of the families, they either are, one parent's missing, a parent could be incarcerated. There's parents, like a parent that's involved in drug addiction or so forth. So when you put the whole thing in total, you bring it all together, it's just, you got to feel good about it, because and I think you made a good point. There's other families out there that, trust me, probably could need our help more than even the ones we give the help to.
Amen. So you're truly making a difference. How can we help? How can the people that see this, how can they help the Dear Santa Society?
Go to our website, right? It's really simple. It's all one word. We're not really that specific, and it's all small letters too. It's www.dearsantasociety.org. And if they just, Google it, dearsantasociety.org, it'll take you to our website. And our website will give the whole background. We have a donation page there. I'm going to do a thing probably tomorrow, the next day. Some business that has a Christmas party and they ask their people to bring gifts. We're going to pick up gifts from them. We've had success at doing that, and what I do is once you give and you can give, like, you say time, talent, treasure, right? I'm kind of the practical guy. I really want your money first, Well, the workers are great, but if you don't have the cash, we're in trouble.
That's a true Catholic Philadelphian right there.
You got it. You got that right.
Jared sits here week after week and marvels at like the connection. So he has you started this with the kind of connection, but he's going to ask you again.
I do want to hear more about this. Phil had mentioned before the show that you're a Philadelphian through and through, and the city of Philadelphia, it really is a small town dressed up as a big city. And I would love to hear how this connection started, if you can dive into it even more. You went back to some of the North Catholic days.
All right, so here it is. So I went to West Catholic, right? And then I ended up, attending LaSalle University.
Bill, you just can't jump through there. You know what's next on that, right?
Go ahead.
What playground, what parish? Come on. Answer the questions.
Well, back in the day, so I was St. James in true West Philly. I could walk to the Palestra. I went to the first Quaker City basketball tournament. I got now. I don't know whether this is a good thing or a bad thing. My parents got me tickets for it, but only one set. I went by myself. Nobody wanted to go with me. I saw the likes of Nate Thurman and Howie Comize when I think they were ranked like #1 in the country. So my love initially, was basketball. And I went to West Catholic, and then it became very evident to me that basketball was not going to be my thing. So I got involved in football, played for the legendary McInerney brothers, right? Was fortunate enough our senior year in '65, we won the city title. And then I ended up like circling back, and a friend of yours and a friend of mine, Joe McFadden, who then became the Bishop McFadden, he and I were both like coaching at West Catholic, right? And then, kind of we went our separate ways. I got a job teaching at North Catholic, and I coached and taught there. Then I went to Bishop Egan. And then, as I joked, then I went over to public education so I could continue sending my kids to Catholic school. So then I was at North Penn for 31 years. So I was actually in education for 46 years, and coached, probably like 26, 27 years. And, through that time, I always prided myself on being a Catholic League guy. Even when I went, as I said, when I went with the Publicans, I was still the Catholic League guy, And Joe McFadden, you wouldn't even remember it. We would go to the Palestra games, and there was never a PA there for when the games were being played. So Joe and I went to the league and said, well, hey, we'll do the public address. Obviously, Catholic school, we weren't going to get paid. So when you and Mo and those guys, some of those great games, Joe McFadden and I were doing the PA. Like, we would introduce the players, before the game, said who scored, who did what, And we got yelled at a couple of times because you would remember the gentleman that did the book, that held the cards up with the fouls and everything. And one time we jumped ahead and we said it was somebody's like third foul, the team's fourth. And he went, don't you ever say anything till I put the cards up,
Legend. He's a legend. He's
it, right?
Yeah, Bob McKee.
And then the other thing that you and I know, Shields Tavern, the legendary Shields Tavern. I mean, when Eddie Stefanski's father was there and Eddie was a kid, right? And then people said, Eddie shot Stefanski. I said, everybody thinks it because, that was a great shooter. I said, he never was a good shooter,
No,
And then your teams were great. Your teams, obviously, your background playing at Widener, and then your St. Joe teams, were phenomenal, And here's the thing. You lead by example. It's like a lot of people walk the walk, talk the talk or whatever. You do both. You talk the talk and you walk the walk, I think that's the key. There's a lot of BS artists out there, they're always up in the front. Yeah, look at me, It's kind of like the behind the scenes thing. So I like to think that that's kind of what we provide, I hope.
Beautiful. Bill, this is beyond anything. We'll put that up there again for people. Like, it's late, but we really want.
Oh no! Look, everything counts, as you can well imagine. So it's like what do they say? So we'll be like the mummers.
Yes.
We're already planning for next year.
That's
you know, it's always ahead. We want to expand.
So you've had this absolute impact. So now I'm going to flip it. I'm going to ask you to look in the mirror and tell us who's made a difference in your life, Bill.
Well, it's funny. When you look back, and they asked me this one time, and I said this, right? I mean, I know we all, obviously your parents, right? But there's got to be somebody besides your parents that had an impact, and it was actually two. One was they were both Holy Child nuns. One was Sister Michael Mary, who I even kept in contact with through high school. I mean, she was just like a kind, caring person. And she kind of, I like to think she put up with us and made us like better young men. And then there was Mother Mary Louise, 6th grade, toughest teacher I ever had. She just kind of like told it like it was before you told it like it was, And then I got to say, probably as a teacher and as a coach, Vince McInerney,
Yes.
more than even, John was great. He was our head coach senior year. But I met Vince McInerney when I was about 11 or 12 years old, went up to a West Catholic practice. He called me over and said, "Hey, come here." He said, "What parish are you from?" Like he would say. And I went, "Well, St. James." And then he told me who from St. James played at West Catholic. And he said, "Are you coming here?" And I said, "Oh, definitely I'm coming here," And I always remembered that. And then all of a sudden, I'm playing for this guy that had reached out to me. So when I was a coach, and this kind of came back, you pass it forward.
Yes.
Anytime a young kid was at our practice, I called him over. "Hey, where are you from? What school do you go to? Are you coming here?" And it's interesting the number of kids that I met when they were like 12 and 13 that later on played for me. So, I kind of like picked it up. So I would probably say from a personal point of view, Vince McInerney taught me you always value everybody on your team, from the top player to the lowest player. When I say lowest, just in talent, and that's the way I operate it,
Well, you're making a difference, and we are just absolutely elated. And I will say this. I didn't know this until right at this moment in time. I saw Bill play football. Because you'll appreciate this. When I was 10 years old, we gathered at Finnegan Playground.
Yeah.
We walked down the middle of Elmwood Avenue.
Yeah. Bartram.
On Thanksgiving Day to see West play Bartram.
Oh, my God.
Everybody yelled one thing. For all those blocks, Bill, what did they yell? West is best.
That's it. Those were the days,
Merry Christmas,
Phil, back in those days, guys that played with you one year were playing against you for Bartram the next year because they were asked to find another place to continue.
Isn't that's a huge difference. Now people say, well, they transfer. I'd be like, you don't understand. Like, transferring back then was like, that was like, you got the red badge. Oh, man, that dude messed up. He messed up.
That's exactly.
Bill, thank you. Merry Christmas.
All right, you too. And your family.
All of my family.
And good. And look, I follow, we follow VCU, obviously, in Penn State. We follow, hey, it's like certain teams you want to win,
Thank you. Bill, we appreciate it.
All right, you too.
Good luck.
Bill, thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Terrific stuff from Bill. The Dear Santa Society, dearsantasociety.org. We'll be pushing that out on social media so people can.
Anything they can do now, and I think that oftentimes people look like, where can I help? And this is like earthy. Doesn't that make sense? Like it's not a website. You're sending it to Bill and all of the people that he represents. I just, so much powerful stuff there. So thank him. And he coached us just now, just like we'll morph into a coaching corner. And I want to take a little bit different twist this week.
Okay.
and it's not a shout out, but it's a acknowledgement. Division III players and coaches. I happened to have an opportunity to go to Immaculata Widener, men's and women's doubleheader. And I sat there and I marveled and I thought about that. Here are these young guys and young ladies. They're getting ready for exams, just like our Division I and the people that get a lot of attention. We have these Division III paying for school, probably taking a job during the season to help, with their cost. They're challenged academically, and I don't mean this in a nasty way, without the resources that we have at Division I. At Division I, we have writing specialists, we have learning specialists, reading specialists. We have all people working so that our players can take advantage of the opportunity that they're given. They're buses and vans, as opposed to chartered flights and the big fancy buses. They're eating differently. I can remember vividly at Widener sprinting to the cafeteria and be like, well, what's left? So they eat differently, but they still have this love of the game, right? They have love of competition. Like, it was evident at that game. Like, they competed. Smaller crowds. TV's not a thing. And maybe live streaming saves a lot of people from having to travel to see all the small details, like number of uniforms. Probably you have a home and away uniform. Which sneakers are we going to wear? And they probably get one or two pair a year. The beauty for me is the pursuit of championships for coaches and for players and for families of those in Division III. Like, the pursuit of championships, daily improvement, and then see where you are at the end of the year. And then they take their year and they compact it, because they're mandated to take, I think it's 2 weeks off around Christmas. Some schools don't start until later in January. So kids are back on campus. And I salute everybody playing Division III, everybody that's coaching Division III. It's really extraordinary. It's extraordinary. Love of game permeates all. So let's all of us fuel that. Maybe we could get out to a Division III game in your area. Or if you're a high school coach, maybe you stay in contact with a Division III guy and give him a lead on maybe your eighth man. Right? It doesn't have to be a star, but it's somebody that loves the game and loves the competition. And that's been sitting with me. And I'm delighted to bring it to make a difference, because they're making a difference. Hoops is making a difference in their college experience.
I think it's wonderfully said, because when you are a Division I athlete and you have all of those resources at your disposal, I mean, it's pretty easy, right? Don't get me wrong. The grind is there, the work is there, but when you have dozens of support staff and people just at your side ready to help you with every little thing, it's, if you're willing to put the work in, then that's
exactly right.
Compared
exactly
to
right.
a Division III person that you're going it alone for the most part. And I'm not saying it's easier at the Division I level than the Division III level, but to stay on the straight and narrow and achieve your goals, it's all there for you at Division I. And Division III, you're pretty much on your own.
And for our Division I, Division II players, families, coaches, it's not a knock. What I would beg you all to watch for, no sense of entitlement, right? Work it. Let's remember, it's a game that can give you, right? It's a game that can give you, but don't always be in a taking mode. Like, you have to participate. Like, that would be my big thing. Participate in your education. Participate in your social growth from being able to play this wonderful game at the Division I level. Participate in your education, right? Communicate with your teachers and be on time and all those life lessons that you can learn. So, but we're saluting Division III, and sometime as we get closer, we're going to have Division III coaches on to celebrate their game.
Absolutely. That'd be absolutely terrific. And I do want to say, from a Division I standpoint, I'm not saying it's easy. I mean, your talent, your hard work got you there, and it's all laid out for you. Don't take that for granted.
No
right?
doubt. No doubt. Well, Bill brought up retirement. We should have got his schedule.
I can't imagine it's anything like Phil Martelli's schedule.
Well, we're morphing this together now, we're not covering everything where I've been, because that's old news. But there are some highlights. I had a chance to drive to Avalon, New Jersey, the Icona resort down there, and speak to the principals and the presidents of the 15 archdiocesan high schools. What a treat that was. Their enthusiasm, their passion for their students, their staff, and hopefully there'll be some connections where we can get into the individual schools. And then I had a hoops day. Really not Media Boys Club, first grade game, Saturday morning. Was able to see Griffin Jeffries play. Then the Malvern Hoops League, third grade, Nolan Jeffries played. Then fifth and sixth grade, Madeline Jeffries, she played at St. Pius, and at St. Pius was a legendary Hawk, the actual Hawk. Brian Kearns, got to spend some time with him. Then went to Devon Prep to see Abington Heights versus Holy Ghost Prep. Andrew Kettle, who runs a huge Coaches versus Cancer program in the Scranton area, invited me to that game. Then left there, drove to Newman College to see Plymouth Whitemarsh play Roman Catholic, sitting alongside James Martelli. That was hoops in one day.
You wouldn't have it any other way.
No, but I was retired that day. I did miss, however, a tremendous opportunity. Dick Hoops Weiss, Speedy Mars, Keith Mars, Fran Dunphy, and Jay Wright had lunch at the Collegeville Bakery. We're going to the Collegeville Bakery. Never in my life have I seen an Italian deli on one side and the sandwich restaurants and the pasta and the milkshakes on the other side. Steve and Patrice are dear friends, Collegeville Bakery. They hosted, I cannot imagine the hoops talk that went on there. And all I could do was phone in because I was driving home from VCU. And I got them all to guarantee that they will be back. And hopefully I will have settled into this retirement and be able to go to that.
One of these days, yeah.
That's where I was. Small version, short version. And then where I'm going. VCU Niagara. Then later this week, the initial NIT call, right? Followed by an invitation from the Phillies to celebrate John Brazier, who is going to retire. His title was Fun and Games, and Don DeJulia is hosting a luncheon for employees of the athletic department that were under his watch. St. Mary Magdalene, I'll be going to their Christmas show. And then back on the road, VCU and American U. And then in our next show, I'll tell you what is involved there. VCU, American U is going to morph into some TV, and then back to VCU. And eventually, I think I'll beat Santa to our house on Christmas Eve. That's my goal right now.
I was going to say, we're about 10 days from Christmas. Yes. At some point, you got to slow it down just a tad bit, right?
I hope. I'm right with you. And I have to give a salute, though. I have to give a salute to the Philadelphia Eagles.
Is that right?
Yes. Second quickest game in the history of the NFL yesterday.
Is that it was? I mean, that thing flew by.
It was the second quickest game. I happened to read that.
2 hours and 35 minutes, I think.
Yeah. And we would be remiss if we did not extend our condolences and our prayers to everybody involved in this madness at Brown University. And I will raise my hand and say that one of my daily prayers is, I understand school children and active shooter drills. I understand it, but please, let's never normalize that. So to everybody, and everybody is impacted, not just the people that were there, but we're all impacted by this. And at some point, hug your loved ones, keep them close, make sure that they know that they really, really, really matter to you, and that you'll do anything to protect them. So that's a challenge at this time of the year. But your birds did help with rushing through that game. And now everything's all right in Birdland. Are we all right there?
It's a step in the right direction, I would say. I mean, we went from the quickest game in NFL history to a week ago. I was there in person in Los Angeles to watch what felt like the longest game in NFL history.
Long.
It was definitely one of the more painful ones I've ever seen. But listen, like we just move ahead.
Okay.
We just move ahead.
Right.
I don't want to dwell on the past because they won 1-0 this week. Let's go 1-0 next week, and that's all that really matters.
That's whatever you want, and we will say, go Birds and go Rams,
of course.
But more important than that, Merry Christmas to everybody, and keep making a difference like the Dear Santa Society is doing.
Absolutely. If you want to get in touch and help the Dear Santa Society, head on over to dearsantasociety.org. That's when you can really make a difference for families in this Christmas season. If you're hoping to make a difference with Phil, head on over to pnjmakeadifference.com. That is where you can tell Phil your story and help him make a difference on the court, off the court, in the workplace, in the classroom, wherever that may be. We are at Make a Difference Pod on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. At Make a Diff Pod on X, Make a Difference with Phil Martelli on Facebook. If you are watching on YouTube, feel free to like and subscribe. If you are listening on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts, we would absolutely love that 5-star rating. And if you are looking for that Martelli Minute, that is every morning at 6:30 at Phil_Martelli on Instagram. We have, again, to give many, many thanks to Bill. Terrific stuff from him. The Dear Santa Society, please, please, please go lend them a hand this holiday season, because they are, like we say all the time, boots on the ground difference makers, and let's help them do that. That's really all we can ask of you. But yeah, once again, go Birds, go Rams.
Go Birds, go Rams.